Remember, if you want more detailed information on this restoration, you can go to the links down on the bar right below the video, being the links to the iBoats thread, which it has all the pictures that you could ever want on this restoration, my Facebook page, facebook.com/FriscoBoater, and my website, friscoboater.com. FriscoBoater.com has a blog that's usually updated also, just like iBoats.com, but the first place to look is my iBoats.com thread for any updates. And if you want instant updates, make sure you like my Facebook page, because that's where I kind of post my thoughts as I'm doing things. So enjoy the video. Well, it is a really kind of balmy, foggy, nasty Saturday morning here in Texas. It is about 65 degrees. It's actually quite warm today. It's what, the 11th or 12th of January. It's been pretty cold. We had a humongous rainstorm that brought our lakes up quite a bit the past couple of days, so it's been really, really nice. But it's also been pretty warm. And today we're expecting the mother of all cold fronts come through here. About 2 hours, and it's supposed to bring this down to the 20s by 5 o'clock. No snow or anything like that predicted, but still, it ain't gonna be like this. I'm in short sleeves. Today, we're gonna cut the deck. Stringers are done, everything's ready to go. I've got my blue foam from Lowe's, which is 1/2 inch, just like the deck is. And we are going to cut each an individual piece to make sure that it's 100% before we cut the wood, because the wood's very expensive. This is $9 a sheet versus $35, $36 a sheet for the deck wood. So if we make a mistake with the blue stuff, it's a lot cheaper. So what we're going to do to cut the front part, or this curved part of the deck, we're going to find the spot back here where it's 4 foot wide. That's because it actually, back in this area, it's wider from side to side than 4 feet. It's more like 50 inches versus 48. So it's just a little bit too wide to use a sheet laying down lengthwise, so we have to use them sideways, and we're going to have a crap load of waste. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to find the point where it stops being, or it's wider than 4 feet or just at it, and we're going to start marking this center stringer every 4 inches or so all the way forward. And then what we're going to do is we're going to measure to where the deck touches right here, all the way up in 4-inch increments, all the way down. And then what that's going to do is going to give us measurements all the way to the front of the bow, and then we're going to transfer that measurement wise. We'll scribe a line right in the center, and then we'll measure out and put marks, and then we'll just connect the dots as best we can, and then lay it in there and see how it came out, and then we'll cut it and adjust it as we see fit. So anyway, that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to get in here and start marking that center stringer and see what we can get done. My goal is to have this thing already glued and screwed in by this afternoon or late this afternoon, and if it doesn't, no big deal. But I've got more 1708 on order. As you recall, I ran out, and it should be here next week, and I can't tab it in until I get that 1708.
I think we messed up. 6. We missed our measurement. Or 3.5, and then it tapers from there. No, that's right. That's right.
It is.
Yep. That's right.
I didn't measure the final one.
That's right.
All right, you can see we've got one side done with the dots, and that's how theoretically it'd be close enough to what we have, and then we can trim it from there. So we're gonna go to the other side now. All right, what's my first measurement?
Well, that's the first big line is 23.25, which is going to be 23.25.
So the end line is 23.25?
Mm-hmm. 23.75, excuse me.
All right, that's on. Okay. Go ahead, next.
22.
Okay.
21. 20. 18.75.
Yeah, now we connect the dots. You see there, I started right there, and every 4 inches I made a mark all the way up. Now, this is probably not going to be dead on, but at least it's fairly close. And then all I did was connect my dots. And as we say, it's as crooked as a politician, but at least hopefully it'll lay down inside the hole right. So we're just going to follow it with a razor knife now, cut it out, and then drop it in there and see how it fits. Well, first fitting came out pretty darn good. I got a couple of trimming places to do, but you can see that I'm a little ways away from the hole is what we want right there. We touched the hole right here, so I need to trim that back. Got to trim this back quite a bit. And the other side's kind of the same, but it's not bad. So I'm going to put a fresh blade in there and do some adjustments, and then we'll just transfer this straight over to a piece of wood and cut it. Really smooth. Nice. We have a blue deck all the way back. This is why you use foam. It allows you to make mistakes and not cost you a fortune. Plus, you see how I've got masking tape right here where I had to kind of add stuff back in where I cut too much. I did that, so then we'll just basically trace that on the wood, and then what I'm going to do on the back side of the wood is we're going to take the belt sander and we're going to actually kind of round it up so that way it sits nice and flat. You see I had a little mistake over there too. We came back and we made a seam right here at our bulkhead. We've got one little piece right here, and then we got a seam right there in the front. You got to think about when you're making these how your wood's going to lay also. You're going to want to make sure you don't just cut them randomly and then you can't fit them on a piece of wood. We kind of planned it out to where this is 3 sheets of ply. If we'd have done it originally I wanted to do it, I would have had to use 4 sheets, but this worked out for the best. Now you can see that right here, see how this is kind of laying down, it's not sitting up nice and flush. That's because this is one piece and it's sitting down on the hull. So what we're going to do is we'll actually take a piece of metal and we'll screw it together right there to bring it up flush when we glue it down, and then take that piece of metal off when we're all said and done. And Dad's going around here and labeling all of them so we know exactly where they go. So much for our balmy weather. That cold front just blew through with a bunch of rain, and it is now getting chilly. We start our downward spiral from the 60s to the 20s by this afternoon. So yucky, but look, got the deck done. It is cut. It is actually very, very nice fitting. I know you guys will laugh about that, but the thing is that's exactly how the hole works, and that's how you're supposed to. I traced it right off my measurements and it dropped down perfectly. Now, you notice that I have a little bit of a lip right there. We're going to take the belt sander to the back side of this so it lays nice and flat. All my seams are really, really tight with the exception of that one right over there. But if you remember, we had the same issue on the Sea Ray, and all you do is you just put a little bit of peanut butter in there and it takes care of it. So don't fret if you don't have a perfect seam. Everything laid down nice and neat back here. Same thing over there. Now it's not screwed down yet because we got to flip this over and we got to coat this entire back side with resin and chopped strand mat. So that's our next thing now, is to close this garage door, get it warm, and then flip it over and go to town. Alright, what I'm doing right now is I'm just cutting out the pattern for the bottom side of the deck. And what we've done is we've flipped them inside the hole here. And you have to be careful with this stuff. It wants to tear really easy. So when you're cutting it, chop strand actually has a smooth side and a rough side. And so you want the smooth side to be, there we go. You can really kind of feel it, it's different. So I'm leaving myself about 1 inch or 2 overlay on the outside, just to kind of give me a lip and then we may trim that off later on, but sometimes it allows you to lay it nice and neat down in the little groove. It gives something for your peanut butter to sit on whenever you do your transition. Don't drag your knees if you get up on it. Just like that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to cut the rest of these and mix up a ton of resin. I'm guessing this will take us a couple of gallons here. Make sure you don't pour this much resin in one spot. I learned my lesson on this right here because it created a huge nasty wet spot that I could not push around, and it made all the chop strand kind of gooey, and it made it difficult. So it was a huge waste. So make sure you don't do this.
Okay.
What you see me doing here is sealing the end grains of the plywood. This is a very important step and gets missed by a lot of people. The water actually, this is the #1 spot where water tends to get in on plywood is the end grains, and it soaks in and then just ruins your wood. So just a little extra ounce of prevention is to make sure that you put lots of resin on the outside and let it soak in really, really good. Well, it's been about an hour and the deck is cured, and you see we got it kind of stacked up over there against everything. You see that's the, you're looking at the top side right there. The back side is right there on the back. All good. And so what we're doing now is I'm gluing and screwing the cleat that we're going to use on the center stringer so we can drill through the deck into that cleat. And what we're doing right now is I just ran a bead of PL down the inside, and I clamped it to the center stringer, and then we're gonna pilot drill and screw in on the back side with a whole bunch of these stainless steel screws. Dad, you got one of those screws handy? Here we go. These are from Home Depot, and they come with their own, not Home Depot, Lowe's. See, there's the stainless screw, and it's got this kind of a Torx head fitting. And they're very, very aggressive threads, and you use this special Torx to screw it in. And we dip each end in not PL, but 5200 before we screw it in there to make sure it's nice and sealed. Sort of like just like we did with the C-Ray. Now, this is not wrapped in fiberglass. I have soaked it in, I mixed the resin very, very slow so it soaks in really good. It is very, very hard to wrap those things in fiberglass. It just never comes out looking right. And to be honest with you, those are kind of almost sacrificial. Water should never, ever get in this compartment. We are sealing this up 100%. Pilot, and then unscrew right away. Here, already got one. We're coating each screw with 5200 before we put it in.
Oh, she did pull that down.
I sure did.
Okay.
All right, so now what I want you to do is hand me the 5200 so I can go along and put a cap or a bead of it right over the. What I'm doing here is taking the 5200 and just basically putting a little blob inside each one of the screw holes, so that way it kind of seals it off really nice. 5200 does a couple of things. It adds a sealant to the screws, and it also is an adhesive to try to keep them from backing out. 5200 is a rock solid adhesive. It works great. So this is just going over the top of the screw heads to make sure they're sealed away and we don't have any chance of moisture penetrating if by chance water gets down in there. So what we've done here is we have test fit the deck one more time. Now we have the chop strand on the back of it. You want to make sure you put it down again unless you marked where your seams were on the hull, which we did not do. So what we're doing now is just basically refitting it, making sure it's 100%, make sure all our seams are good and everything laid out the what we wanted it to. And I had to trim, you see all this chop strand here, I had to trim the edges off of the chop strand so that way it laid nice and flat. And then Dad shot 2 screws into the center portion to hold the center where it is. So when we pull this up, we know when we put it back down, if we butt it right against it, we're A-okay. So we're now going to flip this over, run a bead of PL on all the stringers. We struck center lines and where we need to run our screws. Yep. And we're just going to screw it down. Pretty simple. Yep. Oh, do me a favor. I need PL on that front part of that stringer up there. See what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That's the long ones, isn't it? I don't see the short ones.
Oh, okay, these are the short ones?
Mm-hmm. One thing that is not shown here that I probably should have is that we ended up cutting off all the extra chop strand mat off the edges. If you remember, we actually had it to where it overlapped by about an inch or two. Well, it soaked up a lot of the resin and it was not allowing them to lay and butt up next to each other in the seams. So we shaved them all off and retreated the end grains if I messed any of it up, and it laid nice and neat. So that was one of the things that it just didn't work out to leave them long, so we trimmed them all off.
We were doing up front.
here is how thick that needs to be. You see that PL glue? Nice little bead all the way down. A lot of it will squish out, but that ensures that you're going to get some good coverage. And I'll just put my hand in it. There we go. I need some new gloves. Well, what do you know? I have a deck in the boat. It is screwed down 100%. You see my little jury rig thing there that just holds the two pieces of deck close together. That side stayed perfectly fine. But whenever I accidentally, honestly, stepped on this back part, it kind of pushed it down a little bit. So we put that piece of metal across it and screwed it so it brings both of them close together, or actually just brings them level. So what Dad's fixing to do, he's going to mix up a huge batch of peanut butter, and we're going to start going around all around the edges and putting peanut butter on the edges. So that way we can make the transition. And also, because this deck is floating, meaning the edges really don't touch, these edges do not touch the deck or the bottom part. So what we're doing is the peanut butter will actually adhere and make that bond, and then we're going to come back and tab with one 4-inch 1708 and one 6-inch 1708. So therefore it gives it our strength. And with that peanut butter, we're going to go around to each one of the screw holes, and I'm going to put peanut butter in all the screw holes, so that way it kind of smooths everything out. It went down really nice. I tell you, using that foam idea really helps. Also, you notice how pretty my wood is. I was actually able to find AC sanded plywood. I've been using BC sanded, which has been perfectly fine, but I found the AC, it was quite expensive. This was $34 a sheet for the 1/2 inch, and it actually made a difference as far as how stiff it was. But I mean, honestly, seriously, it doesn't matter. I just kind of wanted something really pretty, and it looks really nice. The other side still has some knots and stuff like that, but this side right here is just beautiful. So, and it's going to be covered up, which is a shame. But it's actually a little bit stiffer than the other stuff. I think the other stuff was 15-30 seconds, and this is actually 1/2 inch. So it was like 1 ply more. Now, I'm not speaking that that's 100% truth, but I think so. But I can tell you, there's no bowing to this deck at all. It's very stiff. So here we go. I'm going to put up the GoPro, and we're going to start doing some peanut butter. If I have a big gap, what I'm doing is I'm kind of stuffing it down inside. What I'm doing here is creating a nice smooth transition with the peanut butter mixture. You got to remember you're going to be putting glass over this, so you want to make sure you try to not have any nibs or anything sticking up that can make you have to work a lot more to sand it down and create more work for yourself. So what I'm doing is just creating a nice smooth transition from the hull to the deck, so that way when we go back with glass, it's as painless as possible. Well, you can see here we got all the seams and everything taken care of with peanut butter, and it is now cured off and ready to go. So now I just got to wait for my 1708 to come in, so that way we can finish up the tabbing and then put in the foam. So next weekend it is.